Welcome to the final week of the Catholic Mom Lenten Book Club. This has been such an incredible way to spend Lent. We are with author Samantha Stevenson, and we have been reading the Bell-bound letters inside the Devil's Plan for Your Motherhood. And this is from our Sunday visitor, and it has just been fantastic. Just absolutely, Samantha, probably one of my favorite books I have literally ever read. Literally, favorite book
Gosh,
I've ever read.
thank you for saying that. That's amazing.
And I read a lot. So it's challenged me. It has enlightened me. It's inspired me. It's awed me. You really, really just did an incredible job. And if you're watching and you haven't read it, our last episode, Samantha, I have to share 500 views, which is
Wow.
pretty incredible. So if you're one of the 500 who just watched this and hasn't read it yet, please go pick it up. You will not be sorry. I promise you. So we're going to finish with our last 6 chapters. And I was teasing Samantha before we went live that she said they're kind of short chapters. And I said, I think you wrote the most in these, the few words you used in these than you did in all the other chapters. They're just jam-packed with lots of great things to consider. So without further ado, let's jump into the considering and thinking and sharing on chapter 25,
Mhm.
the saints.
Yes, the saints. I really liked considering the ways that we get in our own way of knowing various saints. Just
Yeah.
oh, I can't do Saint Therese. She's too sweet. I can't do this or that saint. I can't relate to them. Which I mean, it is a gift that there are so many of them that we can relate to. If you can't relate to one, you can relate to other. Like that's a natural feeling of being able, just like regular friendships, to be able to
Yeah.
relate more. But to totally discount someone, or I think that it's actually a tool in discernment that Ignatius talks about to pay attention to whenever you have a really strong aversion to anything, but in this case the saints. Let's pay attention. That's an invitation to pay a little bit closer attention to why am I reacting so strongly to that? And what can I learn from about myself from why that person is rubbing me the wrong way?
Usually it's because I see myself in them and there's parts of me I don't like. I'm like, oh, you're too much like how I am right now, and I don't want to be this. So I need to find a friend who's different.
But
Or
that's encouraging though,
yeah.
because they're saints. So if they can make it, then we can do it too.
This is funny you mentioned Therese. I did not want to be Therese's friend because I felt like she already had too many people like vying for her attention. So she's like one of those saints that stalked me.
Mm.
The more I tried to be like, I don't want to be your friend, the more she was like, no, here I am. You need me in your life. And now I honestly can't imagine my life, especially travel without her. Uh,
Mm.
I'm actually leaving tomorrow for Ohio, giving a women's retreat at Catholic Family Land, which is just a fun place to say, and I hear to stay. And I just finished my 5-day novena. I'd love that the Lord found me a short novena for my ADHD brain. Anyway, I've prayed to Saint Therese for every one of my trips. And as I was reading the book, I was thinking about some of the crazy things that have happened on my trips, and how Saint Therese has just kind of appeared and helped incredibly. So I'm glad she continued to stalk me because I definitely need her. So who's in your saint posse?
Oh gosh, there's a lot. Definitely, obviously, I already mentioned Saint Ignatius for sure. Teresa of Avila is my confirmation saint, and I didn't know until many years later that she was a patroness of writers. So
Oh,
that's kind of fun. I really love Saint Gianna. Our fourth, our youngest daughter, is named after servant of God Chiara Corbello Petrillo. So I have a special devotion to her because of the difficulty, kind of in a similar but not the same experience of Saint Gianna. She had two pregnancies that ended. She gave birth, but she was encouraged to abort them because they had these life limiting diagnoses, different ones, both of them. So it's kind of strange that these things are so rare, but they would happen to the same family. And so both times she chose life, and she gave birth, and then she became pregnant a third time. And the baby, sorry, but the time she gave birth, the babies passed away. They were able to be baptized, but passed away in her arms. And she became pregnant a third time, but was diagnosed with bone cancer, and she delayed her chemo treatments so that she could protect and give birth and deliver a healthy baby. And she wrote this letter that has really shaped, since I read the letter, has shaped the rest of my life, the way I think about life, the way I think about motherhood. And if you Google it, it will come up. There's an article, I know it's called Saints Are Still Being Made. I think it was by Lisa Cotter, but it's called Saints Are Still Being Made. And if you look up Kiara, and you can read the full text of the letter, but she just talks about, it's a letter to her son, Francesco, for him to read on his first birthday. And she did eventually end up, passing away from cancer. So she gave her life to give him life and to protect him. And so he's still alive and growing because of her sacrifice. And she writes about, the meaning of love and the meaning of life, and that life is a gift, and that really everything that we have only has meaning when we give it away. I really encourage people to go read her actual words, because they're so super powerful. But yeah, what was that on? Oh, just the people in your
your saint posse.
Yeah. So she's not technically a saint, but my husband and I are joking around, like, she's definitely going to be canonized. We have to go someday, hopefully.
Servant of God.
Yeah, we're setting aside a few dollars at a time so that one day we can hopefully be there.
I've never been. Have I been? Oh, St. Catherine Drexel. It's like, where have I ever been in the proximity of a saint's body? And hopefully someday, God willing, Father Patrick Peyton, he is buried near the Holy where do I work? Father Peyton Center, Holy Cross Family Ministries. And he's venerable. So the church, when they call you venerable, they're saying that you're in heaven. So eventual saint, God willing, canonized and named saint. I get to pray at his graveside. But yeah, that's another plan. I'm putting aside money for when he's canonized. God willing, I'll get to be in. I'll still be alive, and I get to go to be there in Italy for that moment. I love that I love being Catholic, that we have the tradition of the saints, of these holy men and women who figured out what we're trying every day to figure out: how to still be a sinner and get into heaven, how to still be human and overcome that struggle of being human and our fallen nature, and fully surrender to God's will for us, which some days I love and some days I rail against, like everybody else.
Don't we all?
Yes. So this chapter is just really just not many words, but just really touched my heart about like, I loved the opening paragraph. You are quite right to come to me with the distressing news about your patient's reading material of late. I'm relieved to hear that you are already taking steps against it. It is essential to stir up disdain for holy women and to keep the patient from knowing these wretched saints whose constant prayer and vigilance on behalf of the church militant have proven the deadliest and sharpest of arrows, occasionally rendering our entire diabolic arsenal utterly impotent. Wow. I love reading, not so much about the saints. I love reading what the saints have to say. I like reading the saints, Saint Teresa of Avila, her books, are just, they challenge me sometimes, because she writes a little bit like Saint Paul, and I have to kind of, you can tell when something was written in a time without word processing. They just write, and like, even there's actually one in the Interior Castle, she's writing, and she actually says at one point, I don't remember where I was going with that. I was like, I love you. You write like me. But who's going to delete, right? Who's going to throw that away? She's just like, well, we'll pick up from wherever I left. I love that.
It's nice to see the humanness of the saints too sometimes.
Yes.
Like knowing that Therese, as saintly as she was in her later years, was quite a handful when she was little. And her mother, who's also a saint, wrote about just the difficulty of dealing with her and all of that. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
comforting. And her mom, she also had a lot of help. Like she had, she had all the sisters, and she had people helping in her household and things like that. So it just goes to show, like, you don't have to be slaving away. You can ask for help. You can ask for the help you need. It's not like you have to do this all on your own. And in fact, maybe it would be better to ask for help and to admit our weaknesses and our limitations and invite that, and to show people that we're really human and we do need to reach out and have those connections and can't do everything on our own, because clearly she didn't do everything on her own, and she's a saint and her daughter's saints, so her husband is a saint. So
Love it.
worked out for
Yes.
them.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yeah, I think we think we're like, it's so heroic to just do it on your own and not ask for help. But really, I remember my spiritual director, Deacon Jerry Ryan, God rest his soul, saying to me that my desire to be super mom and to do everything on my own and to like volunteer my way into heaven and not let anybody help me was stealing other people's blessings. It's like, you're like, how do you know that's not how God plans on blessing this person or sanctifying this person? And he's like, and you're stealing that away in your selfishness. And I was like, that's not being selfish. I don't want to bother anybody. He's like, that's pride. Like, oh,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
yeah. So he was very, very wise. I meant to look up the name Mendex.
Mendax.
Mendax.
That's another one. I have to give credit to my friends. I believe that means liar, which fits there because he is. Let me just Google it. Mendax. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I meant to look that up. I circled
it's,
it.
It's the name of some company. No shade to the company. I didn't know. I thought it meant liar. No, the only thing that's coming up is this corporation. Yes, liar. Okay, more meanings in Latin. It's Latin for liar. So that's correct. Nothing to do with the corporation whatsoever. But yes, and so it fits there because in a special way, because in that context, it's that tempter is denouncing Mother Teresa, Saint Teresa of Calcutta, online in all these online forums, saying horrible things about her, and she was giving substandard care. And this is actually based on, I actually did run across this in an online forum at one point, and I was shocked
going to ask you that.
First found it, but then I've since come to realize that that is a more popular argument than I realized at the time. But I was really surprised when I first stumbled upon it, and that just always stuck with me. And so it made its way into the book.
Especially somebody like so modern, and that that we have like videos and like so much about her, that unlike a saint that people alive never met, like there are people today who met her, who knew her. So it's interesting that people take such a twisted.
I mean, but that's kind of the way it is just with anyone who has a profile in contemporary life. There are going to be people who sing their praises, and there are people who are going to say horrible things about them. Who knows how much of it is true on either side, really. It's hard to know.
Right. But if you're willing to pick the maggots out of somebody, then them clearly thinking you're a good
right?
person.
I know.
Like,
how many of us? Yeah.
Nope. Nope.
But that's kind of closer to home, at least for strangers. Yeah. But for moms, that's what happens. I mean, maybe, hopefully not maggots, but when you're taking care of somebody in illness, holding their hair while they're throwing up on the toilet, or like they're throwing up all over you, which has happened to me more than once. That kind of physicality of and sacrifice and care is, I think we see that in the saints, but also don't discount the way that that opportunity presents itself to us as moms to give that. Or even doesn't even have to be motherhood, just anytime you're doing caretaking of somebody that's really really physical and has to do with those kind of visceral bodily experiences, there's a huge opportunity there to give of yourself and to be really sacrificing in just the mundane, ordinary things, and thinking of caring for dying parents, grandparents. There's a lot that goes into that that I think can be profoundly shaping um,
Mm.
and sanctifying if we approach it from that perspective. Because the alternative of not submitting to that is it becomes a really horrifying experience. So it's the same external thing, but it's
Yeah.
really about where you go with it and how you invite grace into that moment.
Amen. Speaking of inviting grace, your next topic, your next chapter letter was written just for me on
Oh,
worry. If you could gold medal at worrying about things, I would be an Olympian. So there's that. Um, I do spend way too much time with an anxiety, and not just because I have it like medical anxiety. I just worry, general worrying. And I thought you said like attacking the patient's sense of trust with waves of anxiety.
mm-hmm.
And this is my relationship with God. Like I trust him, and then like for instance, I am flying out tomorrow. I hate flying. I hate being away from home, but I promised him years ago when he, kind of put it on my heart that he wanted me to be an inspirational speaker, that I wouldn't go looking for opportunity, but I wouldn't say no to them. And I've tried to be as true to that as I can, because if somebody randomly finds me and invites me to come speak, I have to trust that's the Holy Spirit inviting me. But like today, I see like there's tornadoes warnings in the area, kind of where I'm going to be tomorrow, and I was like, really, Lord? And and I just have to like knock it in my head and be like, I surrendered this all to you, right? Like trusting that He's going to put me where I'm supposed to be, and
Mm-hmm.
the outcome is not for me to worry about. And
Mm-hmm.
Um, a friend of mine and I were just walking the other day, and she's like, "Why are we so afraid of dying when we love God so much?" Right? I mean, as obviously there's the unknown, there's like, that whole doubt and fear, and I mean, even if God is completely a trustworthy part of our hearts, like there's still our behavior to deal with. But so it was interesting that you had a letter on worry and how easily that can take us away from God.
Yeah, we were talking about this. I don't think it was last week, maybe a few weeks ago. We were talking about the book "Searching for and Maintaining Peace" by Father Jacques Philippe, and that
Yes.
all these things that steal our peace. But he says, I think everything that steals our peace. What does he say? I forget. Like all reasons to lose our peace are bad reasons. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that maybe the tornado does come through there, and maybe your flight can't touch down. But that doesn't. I mean, maybe if that happens, then clearly it was not God's will for you to be there at that time. That doesn't mean that it wasn't His will for you to accept that speaking engagement. Maybe He had a totally other reason that you don't understand. Maybe you'll see it someday, maybe never. Not until hopefully we reach the heavenly culmination of all of it. But maybe there was a reason that you were supposed to pray through the things for this women's retreat, and maybe that was for you. And maybe you'll learn something about trust in the storm that you wouldn't otherwise have gotten. It's always an opportunity to recognize that nothing happens without His permission, and that if something is his will come to pass, and we can't really get in the way of that. I
Yeah.
guess except when we choose sin, that he still allows that with His permissive will. So there's that.
And I was thinking today that courage, this beautiful gift of building that fortitude, the gift of the spirit, fortitude doesn't come unless there's something that you need to be courageous about.
Hmm.
Like I'm fearful and I could cancel, but that's not showing that I trust God. That's not letting the Holy Spirit be a teach me courage and fortitude and be a part of my life. Um, and so that's just not that's not an option. So and it actually brought great peace to me when I started to see it this way. Like, no, this is courage, because courage in the face of not having fear is not courage. Like, you can't like, the very definition of the word courage is that there's something that's causing you to be anxious or worried or afraid, and rising up above that. And that's I'm in the end, I was thrilled to have this opportunity to trust God. It reminded me of a real quick story of this trip I took where I got stranded. I think it's actually the same airport getting out. That might have been Philadelphia that I got stuck in. Anyway, Pennsylvania and I flying and apparently don't get along. But there was one car left to be rented that was one way to Logan Airport, and the person in front of me was a JetBlue pilot. And I had been talking to him in the line, and I was supposed to fly JetBlue, and he got the car. And I met this young woman that we were going to try to get back to Boston together. And he said to us on the way out, like, he took the last car and he turned. It was like a Hallmark movie, except there was no romance involved. And he said, if there's anything I can do for you, and I blurted out, you can take us with you. Long story short, he did, and it was like this crazy moment of this young girl who was Jewish, who taught special needs kids. I had a special needs child that was adopted. He was this adopted dad, and he raised goats. I love goats. Like, we had this amazing 6-hour conversation that you would have thought the three of us were the best friends ever. And I would have never had this incredible, amazing experience, if the storm hadn't come through, if I hadn't trusted God and just, stepped out in faith. The best part of that whole story is my husband calling me in panic because I had told him, I think you're going to have to come get me. And he's like, where are you? Did you get did you get a ride? I'm like, yeah, I'm with a pilot. He goes, you rented a Honda Pilot? I go, no, I'm with a jet plane. He's like, what? It was crazy. But anyway,
That would make a good movie. That's like a Breakfast Club meets Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
it was actually like, it was just such a great, and I never heard of, never exchanged information, never saw those two people again. Every time I get on I'm actually flying JetBlue tomorrow. Every time I get on a plane, I listen for the captain to say his name, and it's funny how when you trust God, he can really amaze you with the experiences he gives you.
I had to think about that when I travel, especially, but just anytime you're in a place where you're crossing paths with someone and you probably are never, ever, ever going to see that person again. Just, oh, I had this great conversation with this person on the airplane, but never going to see them. But then I'm thinking someday maybe we will be reunited in heaven and we will be in like perfect union with these souls that we cross paths with for, a few seconds, few minutes, a couple hours, 6 hours. Someday we'll meet again.
Yeah. There's no accidents, I don't believe. This chapter also includes my word of the year, ruminating. And and I like again how you just you kind of just bring it all together. Rumination has dual effects, both desirable. Yes, rumination.
Yes.
I
Your
wrote that
patient
right.
will willingly yoke her attention to that which is not, which is always advantageous. And it can blanket her entire consciousness for long stretches at time. It may yield total and utter despair. Like thunderclouds rolling across a bright sky, the larger and darker these thoughts loom, the more effectively they will blot out the light in its entirety.
Amen. I had that entire passage underlined. Well, all right, let's just face
It's
it. If
so
you're looking
nicely annotated. I used to teach high school and I used to grade annotations. They hated that.
I have ADHD. If I do not write in the book, I'm not just doing this so we can discuss this. If you're listening to the podcast and you're not watching online, my entire book is underlined with notes in the Um, I read to learn, and I love to go back and reread my books. I know not many people reread books, but I love learning from other people's writing. But that whole ruminating, like that, the hamster wheel, like you just get stuck. Um, and the devil loves that. He's like, oh, she's not doing anything. She's not moving forward. Maybe for me, sometimes when I get hamster wheeled, I just plop myself on the couch and watch dumb television because I'm frozen, fight or flight. I'm just going to sit here and worry about what could be, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. Anything else from this chapter you want us to?
Hmm. Just the things that are helpful for me to remember when I'm getting off track is this idea of um, whenever we're really worrying and stuck in that place, that all of that is, if we remember, that happens when we doubt God's goodness and
Mm.
his love for us. So when we remember God's goodness and his love for us, that is a way out, like a path out of. It's just got a flash of, I don't know if you watched the Stranger Things
I
show.
have not. Yeah, no, I've not seen that.
Not that I wholeheartedly recommend it, but we did watch all of it, and there's this part where they get like stuck in this mind of this monster, and they have to find a way out, like a clear spot, because it kind of looks like a hellscape, and they have to find a clear spot out to reality. And so I was just kind of picturing that as just
Hmm.
this landscape of worry and not and mistrust or distrust, and then being able to find go back to those moments of grace or those moments of consolation that you had when you knew or you felt God's presence or he came through for you for something, and to go back. And if you don't have that necessarily, that personal experience of it in your own life, to go back to it in scripture and to see the ways that God has come through on all of his promises throughout all the covenants throughout salvation history, time and again. It's always us who's unfaithful. God is always faithful and keeps his promises, and to just go back to those. So whatever it is, it's a moment of scripture, if it's a story somebody else told you that was a witness that lit up your heart, or if it's something that you had that moment of consolation, to go back to that moment of trust and faith when you are feeling that those clouds of worry and doubt.
Mm. That's great advice. Like that the hindsight, right? The beauty of hindsight, and to use it to regain our trust and our peace. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thought.
And like we don't always know. Talk about like maybe you do miss your flight. I really hope you make safe travels and that you make it and everything. But say you did miss your flight, we don't always know. Like a kid doesn't always understand why his parents do something, especially a little kid. When my brother was 3, he was swinging on his stomach on a swing. You just like how kids lay over
Yep.
the, and he was running at it, and he just went straight over and he broke his arm. And we had to take him to the emergency room, and they had to set the bone. And I didn't go with him. I was in the waiting room in the ER, but I could hear him from the waiting room of the ER. And I haven't had to do that with my own kids, but I can't imagine being with them and like holding myself together. And I know as a parent, if that were to happen, I know that them setting the bone is the best thing. I know that it would be cruel to do anything but that. But to it's still, a lot of suffering as a parent to watch your kid. And then the kid in the moment, a 3-year-old, they don't understand why that's happening. And it's hard to
Right.
explain. And even if you can explain it, it still wouldn't be what they would, they don't have the capacity to choose that for themselves. I kind of think that's where we are in these moments of suffering and trial and not seeing the divine plan. We just, even if he were to lay it all out for us, we just don't have that
Right.
capacity to understand. And that's why we have to trust and know that he's a good father and a loving father, and to trust and to submit to what he needs to work in our lives.
Super good advice. And it's interesting because the next word I looked down would be simply surrender. And in the surrender novena, there is that one day where it talks about getting in your parents' way. Like your parents know what's best for you. And it said it's like the child who asks his mother for help, but then kind of messes up the works by
Mhm.
trying to do it themselves or to help them help you instead of just surrendering,
Yeah.
um, and just letting God do his thing. And he, like that promise that he promises in Romans 8:28 to bring good in every circumstance for those who love them. That's the Allison Abridged version of that. But as you were speaking, that's all I could think about was the promise that there will be some greater good, whether I see it now or the next life, or, it's not for just to trust it, even if I never ever see it, like you just said. Um, some days easy to remember, other days
Not.
not so much.
Mhm.
All right, let's, and just to let you know that the very last chapter, I mean, paragraph, I won't read it all, but just this giant wow next to it.
Mhm.
Just a wow. Um, all right, I have to read. You must deafen her at all costs, for if she hears it, the enemy's voice, that is, she will turn her head and follow you no longer. And I love that idea of the shepherd, the
Mhm.
sheep. One of the beautiful, that Jesus says that the sheep know my voice, and the thing about shepherds is that they develop a call that's unique to that shepherd, so that when they all come together at night and they mix the flocks and it's time the next morning to leave, they make the noise that their flock recognizes that that's the one they need to follow. And there's like, if you ever get a chance to study shepherds and sheep in in relation to Jesus and us, it's fascinating. It's like the most perfect analogy, which is why Jesus chose it, but it's just fascinating. But that's, when I read this, knowing that the shepherd has the sound that only his sheep know, I was like, I get it.
Now,
Lovely.
now I want to get sheep. I don't know any,
Oh,
I don't have any place to keep the sheep, but my parents live next to some people who keep sheep, and they just all had lambs, and the lambs are so cute. We
oh.
just drive past them, and sometimes we stop and look at the lambs. But yeah,
I'm a goat girl. I really love goats, little baby goats, those little pygmy goats.
oh yeah,
Um,
their neighbors have goats too. The
oh my
neighbors of
gosh.
the neighbors of the sheep people have goats. The sheep people and the goat people.
One
Their
of my
neighbors.
favorite memories ever was holding a little baby pygmy sheep, and I was holding the sheep. The goat. I was holding the
Mhm.
goat, and I was talking to my friends. Well, as a mom, what's the first thing you do when you hold another baby? You just rock, right? You just can't
Mhm.
help yourself. So I'm holding the goat, and I rock, and all of a sudden I notice that the goat's head is just kind of draped over my arm, and I have completely knocked this goat out, fast asleep. And my friends are like,
Mom
"You're the
skills.
goat." You're the goat whisperer. I was like, yeah, mom skills. I love it. So it was like one of my favorite moments, rocking a goat to sleep. All right, speaking on motherhood and goat and mother skills,
Yes.
chapter 27 on motherhood as idol. I never idolized my motherhood. So this was a very interesting chapter to me,
Mm.
because this feels like you have experienced, not maybe not yourself, but some people who. So I'd love to hear your experience and why
I'm
this chapter.
I think it is more common in the era of social media because there
Okay.
are you could just go on Instagram or YouTube and you can watch another mother be the perfect mother for hours and that like there's endless content. You probably couldn't consume all of the content of mothers and it's just about how they clean their house and cut the crust off. This one mom makes her children's goldfish crackers from scratch with gluten free, not organic, whatever flour, and being just all the things to
Wow.
do perfectly. And the birthday party, you can watch all these other mothers doing these tasks that are really actually sort of peripheral to the actual mothering. You're
Mm,
not watching them relate to their children. You're watching them create. I mean, at least maybe it's real, but they're at least creating a facade or a show of what it is that they are doing, um, and that probably, I would imagine, gets in the way of the actual time spent
mm,
doing the relational aspect of motherhood. Um, and maybe it doesn't, maybe they're able to do it without that getting in the way. But especially for the people who are actually creating that content and like making a show. It's There's this book I had to read for philosophy when I was a freshman, and I didn't really get it at the time, but I sort of am beginning to understand it now. And the word that they kept using in the book was reifying. So it's taking a thing that should be um, relational and like making it objectifying. So it would be reifying would be the objectifying of that type of relationship. So I think it probably, at the very least, takes what should be relational and makes it, commodifies it, I guess. Even if you're not getting money out of sharing that kind of stuff online, you're getting the currency of attention,
Mm.
dopamine. But that's
I
not
love.
actually, that's not totally what this chapter was about, because there's not, I don't think, anything about screens specifically in this chapter. That's just kind of where my mind went with the idea of making motherhood an idol, like
Yeah.
making, or with really talk about making your children, like taking that relationship and warping it, finding your identity in your motherhood and in your children, when that really should be your love. It should be like an overflow or an outpouring of self, rather than getting my self worth from this, which would be like the idolatry of using them as trophies. Or if they're not good, if they're not well behaved, then their bad behavior or their falling away is somehow a reflection on your own worth, and you feel that
Mm.
as like shame about something. I mean, it's fine to feel guilt about if you've done something wrong, but when you feel shame of yourself for when somebody else has done something wrong, then there's something like a little bit off there.
The chapter did remind me, and this is the week before Holy Week, so it seems a pretty good time to tell the story. It did remind me of when my boys were both little. We were asked to be involved with the foot washing on Holy Thursday, and it was the first time I'd ever even been to the services for Holy Thursday. I'd just come back, reverted back to the faith, and I didn't even know this was the thing. So I'd never been before. So to me, it was like I had to have the boys these cute new little outfits that perfectly matched. I went and got a pedicure, and it was all about the appearance, right? Like we're sitting up there, and I'm like proud as a peach, like not at all thinking about what is actually happening. But I have this like moment with the boys, and the boys were not well behaved, and it was, um, it's like one of those proud moments, but yet you're like, oh, my boys aren't being good. Fast forward 2 years later, we have my daughter home we had adopted her from China, and maybe it was 3 years later, and we were in a new church, and we were asked again, but this time it was just me and my daughter. And at this point, like my life is a little bit more hectic. I didn't have time for the pedicure. I barely got my feet washed before I got there, like so my feet weren't gross. I have my daughter next to me, just in her normal clothes, and on the other side of me is this girl in a wheelchair who is severely challenged. She can't communicate. She can barely move, and as the priest gets closer, she gets more and more animated, more and more excited, and I just realized, like, she gets it. She gets it far more than I ever will. Like, this is Jesus, the priest, right? Jesus coming to wash our feet. This is Jesus coming to 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 have this moment with us. And I'm worried about appearances and my feet, and um and my kids, what are they doing? Like, I couldn't even get my boys to come that time, and just being like so wrapped up in the motherhood guilt or appearances. And yeah, that's not at all. Most of what life is about isn't about the appearance. It's about the feeling. It's about what God's doing in your heart. It's about relational, like you just said.
Yeah. And then it goes on to talk about the mom guilt, and to sort of um, get this character to totally put all of her eggs in the mom basket, like all of her focus that, and then anytime she wants to do anything outside of a mothering activity, to feel just endless amounts of guilt for it. so that if she wants to spend her time, no, if she can only spend her time on things that serve her children and nothing else. So then the children are becoming the idols, and she is draining herself and then neglecting whatever else God has
Yeah.
as a call on her heart to use her gifts, which I think you know a lot about using your gifts as a mom. Um, and you're actively trying to do that. But there is that guilt of, oh, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this. And the constant balancing act of, am I doing too much in this arena? Am I doing too much here or there? And feeling guilty for whenever you drop a ball from any arena.
Right. Yeah, like this again example of going away this weekend. It's my daughter is older, but she still likes to have time with me, and there's still things that need to be done around the house. My Christmas decoration may or may not still be stuck in the corner right there, waiting to be put away. I figure if I leave them there long enough, I'll just put them back out again. And but wanting to serve God and wanting to say yes to Him and wanting to spend the time with this weekend with the women sharing God's amazing love. I'm going to talk about 6 women in the Bible and how their encounters with Christ finds them this unshakable joy in their life. But there's still a part of me that feels guilty. Like, should I be doing this? Should I wait till she's, you know, more grown? Am I being selfish that I want to do this? And I think that is a tug that all mothers go through, regardless if it's just wanting to knit a little sock when the kids want you, or, have tea with a friend, or but that balance between mother time and being a mom time and your own self is definitely a tug I've
Yeah.
felt.
The one of the lines in the book is, make her feel as though she commits a crime quite unforgivable when she prefers the stroke of a brush to the change of a diaper, like the stroke of a like painting or something.
Yes.
Which is advice I got, not in those words, but advice I got from a spiritual director. It's like, you don't have to feel guilty if you're enjoying writing more than you're enjoying these relationships, especially when they're really little. Like, it's trying and that's draining, and you're actually, when you take time away to go write and you're refreshing your soul, that's not draining on you. So what you're doing is filling your cup so that when you go back to them and you are giving of yourself and serving, that you have more to give. Sometimes we think of any sort of activity that you're doing is an equal expenditure of your energy, but that's not really true. There are lots of things we do, and it's different for everybody what exactly fills you up, because I would not be that invigorated. I like it more than I would think, but I would not be that invigorated by being an artist painting with a brush. But painting with words, it's usually very refreshing to me. So this would be different for some people I know really like to run or do various forms of exercise, which is good for all of us. But I think some people just really they're just really passionate and invigorated by it. So it could be that. It could be, I don't know, what are other hobbies people have? Gardening. It could be lots of things. But you don't always need to sort of justify it with anything other than, this is one way that is unique about how God made me, and I'm going to express that because He gave me that gift to express. And if nothing else, just do that activity with Jesus. Invite the Holy Spirit to come alongside you and just be together in that act of creativity, because that creativity comes from God.
It's beautiful. And I think it's good to be an example to your kids, right? Like, it's good to show them that their mom is multi-dimensional, that she's not just, that she's got interests and things. So, speaking of a multi-dimensional mama, let's talk about Mary. I love it on her.
Those are good. Your segues are on point tonight.
Thank you.
Those are good.
Thank you. It's a skill.
Yes. I like this one. And how, when we are in her presence, we are in immediate and utter peril.
The abomination. Why did you like what? I just think this is just brilliant. Is this something that you got from C.S. Lewis, or is this something that just came from your little brain?
I actually don't recall. That might be from C.S. Lewis, but I want to say no. I want to say the abomination I came up with, but I could be wrong. If anybody has read both, or you just read Screwtape Letters, and you can put it in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But I think that was me. I think.
Well, it's perfect. His ridiculous abomination. That's fantastic. And I love, like, obviously that you capitalized it. So I do
Yeah,
know who you mean.
I'm not remembering. I mean, he probably did, but I'm just not remembering if C.S. Lewis specifically separated out the enemy and the
Yeah.
incarnation, or the person of Jesus. I just don't recall if he made that distinction. But I wanted to make that distinction, so I wanted to use a term. So maybe he came up with it, maybe I came up with it. That would
I, yeah,
yeah, that would make that distinct. Um,
it's really good. It was the first time I read it in the book, I was kind of taken back by it. Like, oh, yes, of course that would be an abomination to him. That was great. Um, so Mary, and I love also how you explain how she humiliates the devil and how
mhm,
he just despises her, because I don't know if a lot of people realize that the fury that she
mhm.
causes, and so why that makes making her our beloved mother and staying close to her all the more important for us.
Yeah, a lot of the this particular letter from Mary came from listening to and talking to my pastor, who is an exorcist for our diocese.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and he will often share, either in spiritual direction or in his homilies, or he's been on a couple of podcasts, but he will share specific details from exorcisms and just the common reactions of what the demons will say in these interactions, and how they respond to Mary and to images of her, to the rosary and things like that. So the specific um, anger and revulsion and fear that is in here, and the way that they think about came a lot from conversations or things that he shared.
Wow, that's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, because they're the thing that they're taking issue with is that they are pure spirit, and we are polluted by material filth. We are by body and spirit, so we belong to both realms. So in the rightful hierarchy that God created, they should all be above all of us. Definitely not this, none of this abomination situation, and definitely not bowing down. How could he possibly make a human woman the queen of heaven? That's um, revolting. And how could they be expected to bow to her? That is insulting and cause for revolt, which they talk about in this letter.
It was so, yeah, it was such a fabulous bit of catechesis and theology in such a easy to understand, entertaining way, to be honest.
It's edutainment, education and entertainment, all in one.
Love that. Uh, Anything else from?
Yeah, I think that that it's interesting to note both sides of the spectrum when it comes to Mary, because there'll be like the virtuous honoring of her as queen. The bit about his God delegating certain powers to her, that definitely that came from a conversation in spiritual direction, with my pastor, the exorcist, and this idea that though we can have this right relationship with our queen and mother, but that it can also get off course. So it could get off course, the way that it has, they mentioned in the letters, with some of the enemy's followers who will just completely deny that she matters at all, or that she has any goodness, which is one way to get off course. And then the other way, which is to do what that other end of the spectrum usually accuses everyone on the spectrum, everyone else, um, whether they're giving due honor, just paying justice to the queen, or worshiping and putting her in front of. And there are certain practices that are, if they stray into things like superstition or putting her above God, if we always only ever talk to Mary and never to Jesus, never address the Father, never the Holy Spirit, that's not the way that she would have it. That's not
Right.
right. That's not properly ordered either. So there's both ends of the spectrum there, lest anyone read it and fail to see that both of them are there.
I like this sentence. Truly, I tell you that nothing will save you if that woman gets her hands on your patient. There is none who leads them so directly to her son as she. That is,
As Father Peyton would tell us, I think.
amen. Yeah, he's right here over my shoulder. Ta-da! Yes, he loved Our Lady very much. Um, and he would say she is the greatest leader to her son.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Thank you for dropping Father Peyton into this.
Yeah, of course. By
He
the
was
way,
in.
since we're already talking about Father Peyton, this is not a planned promotion, but just came to my mind. If you haven't seen the movie Pray, please watch the movie Pray. It is incredible. We watched it, I guess it was about a year ago, exactly, with my now 10-year-old daughter, and she just brought it up to me the other day. I don't remember the exact context, but it was really impactful. Just the
Wow.
story to her, and it's beautiful. So just
Thank you for.
need a family movie night. It's watchable. Although we
I
didn't watch it with our younger kids yet, because she was 9 and she's pretty mature 9, but
yeah.
she was the right age for it.
I think for me, it's so powerful to see somebody kind of very contemporary being
Mm-hmm.
saintly and being able to really make a difference in this world through his faith. And I don't know if we think that's still possible in our day and age, and yet he did it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also not a planned promotion, but there's a really incredible book. So talking about Father Peyton and the Rosary rallies made me remember the situation in Manila when the people were actually able to stop the fighting with the Rosary. And there's a great book. What is it called? It's by Sophia. I think it's by Sophia Institute Press. It's a hardcover. It's a beautiful coffee table book, but just pages and pages and pages, like this thick, of the different apparitions of Mary and this story, her story throughout time. It's so beautiful, so much good information, so
Mm.
powerful to read through. I like to have stuff like that around the house, just on our shelves. Because when I was little, I would go to the shelf and find some random book, and I still remember looking through them. And so I like to have them for my kids. So
Oh,
we'll
I
do
love
that.
it.
I've read some of the stories, not every. I didn't read it cover to cover, but just I did read that one, and just really powerful. And then there's also a great book that's more of a children's book. It is a children's book by that one's put out by Tan, I think. What is it called? Something about Our Lady's wardrobe, I think, about the
Oh yes,
tradition.
yes. Our Lady's wardrobe.
My daughters especially, my sons like it too, but my daughters especially love, they'll ask to read it over and over and over and over again. So I think that's beautiful, just to have their
Yeah.
little hearts and minds and have that Catholic imagination start, at that young age. Have it
I
beautiful.
What I loved about that book is that it's very hard to explain to a child, and I've even met an adult or two that's confused by how many Marys there are. To
Mm,
see that the different apparitions can be seen as Mary changing her clothes,
yeah.
like the different garbs she wears, and each apparition that kind of matches the country of which she is
Mm-hmm.
appearing in. That is such a great way for kids to see same woman,
Mm-hmm.
different clothes, different costume,
Right.
because
Yeah.
kids can really relate to that. I thought that was brilliant. Yeah, that's a fantastic book. Highly recommend that book.
And that's kind of true in our motherhood too, right? Different.
Samantha said that earlier she was having trouble staying on, so I'm sure she'll be back in a second, and she will tell us how this relates to our motherhood And see, she's
Hi.
back. Oh, just give
Oh, I
yourself.
don't know what happened.
Okay, there you go. Now
Okay,
you're back
there,
in.
there we
You
go.
can say it's true to our motherhood too, and
Yeah, well, when you have multiple children, you could see that different children have different needs, and as a mother, you're going to come to each child a little bit differently because what they need from you is a little bit different. It's true. I mean, I see it a lot in discipline, most
Mhm.
often in discipline, but it's true across the board of what they really want or desire. Even just thinking about the concept of love languages, like how we love them and how they're going to receive love is different across their different personalities. But in discipline, I can really see it because one child, I mean, we might need to go over the same thing over and over again, and I could escalate all day, and there's just fire for fire. And then another child, if I'm like even raising my voice a little, that's going to be, oh my gosh, that's so sorry. It just hits them differently. And so what the voice that I need to use with them to reprimand them or to help them to become the best version of themselves, the
Mm.
approach is a little bit different. Or to get them to do their chores, one kid's carrot is going to be different than another kid's carrot. They're not all motivated the same way. So as an analogy too, thinking about Mary coming to each of the different peoples in ways that are impactful to those communities. It's beautiful.
Remember last week when we were off at air and you said, "I hope we have enough to fill the hour."
Oh
So
my
now
god.
we're only on chapter 29 and we have
Okay.
4 minutes left. So
Okay.
let's. I told you,
Yeah.
oh, it goes by so fast. So reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
I do love confession, not gonna lie. I find so much peace and comfort. I didn't start off that way. I was a confession chicken. It took me a while to realize that this is coming to know Christ. Like it's the priest is Jesus in persona Christi is Christ in two very powerful ways. That's at the consecration and in confession. So someone said to me the other day, I don't need to go to confession. I bring it straight to Jesus, right straight to God. And I said, me too. But I do it in the confessional because I need Jesus with skin. I need to hear Jesus say, "You are forgiven. I don't want to guess." And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like that's such a gift that the church gives us, that God gives us, that we can go and be forgiven and not guess
Yeah.
or worry and wonder if God's actually hurt us.
Well, there's also too, if you think about it, and as a relationship of a parent giving a gift to a child, and God has given us these sacraments. Jesus gives the sacrament to us in the scriptures, and it's it's the normal way that He wants to dispense this grace to us because He created this as a gift to us. And so, of course, we can ask for forgiveness in another way outside of that gift. But if you think about what it's like to be a parent giving a gift to your kid, when you're going to say, "Oh, I want to take you on this outing because I want to spend time with you." And the kid's like, "Well, that's fine, but I don't want to do that thing you planned. Can we just spend time together? Can we just spend time together this other way?" Yes, we can. We can spend time together this other way, but ow, I had this plan of something I wanted to give to you. I was excited to give you this thing,
Yeah.
and I hoped that you would receive it. And if the child had received it, that they're missing out on a lot by choosing not to. So
Amen.
that's another way that I have to think about it because I'm the reluctant goer to confession reconciliation.
Yeah, I do. I reluctantly go. Not well. I used to go reluctantly, but I always left so full with joy and like skipping in my heart, and so glad that I went. So, in this week leading up to Holy Week, I hope people who are reluctant find the strength and courage and ask our Blessed Mother. She'll get you there. So, the
Mm-hmm.
final chapter on defeat. I like the way you ended it way gentler than C.S. Lewis.
Well, I mean, maybe. I kind of think that his way was a happier ending than the way this one ends. This one's a little bit more, I don't know, ambiguous or not ambiguous. Just it just doesn't. It's not over. I guess
Right.
is how it ends. And with C.S. Lewis, gets to go to heaven. So It works out really well for the
Well,
patient in that story.
as the woman who's been reading this the whole time, the mother that's related to this character, I'm happy she's not dead.
Well, the other one, in C.S. Lewis, sorry, spoiler alert to everybody, the patient um, slips out of Wormwood's grasp, and Wormwood is defeated. And in this one, it's just not the end. It's that she has, um, she's in that cycle. She's just cycled away from being easily tempted, and they're just biding their time. And so
Mm.
it's not resolved one way or the other. The question of her, yes, she's still alive, but the question of her salvation is still a question.
It reminded me of St. James that said, "Be alert and be sober." It might have been St. Paul. I always get those two mixed up. But be alert and sober. The enemy's prowling the world looking for souls to devour. Actually, it was St. Peter. I knew I'd get to one of them. Yeah, it was Peter. One, like around one Peter
One
5:7,
Peter, yeah,
something like that. 5:5.
one
Yeah,
one Peter 5, I think, or maybe
yes,
7, 5 to 7. So
yes.
yeah, sure, it's Peter.
Yes, it's Peter because it also includes one of my favorite, which is cast all your cares upon him, cast all your anxieties upon him because he cares about you.
Mm.
Um, so, yeah, stay sober and alert because until that final breath, we are still fighting. And there's a war going on for our souls, whether we want to admit it or not. So you've given us so much to think about over these last 5 weeks. It has been very special this Lent to spend this time with you, Samantha. Is there anything you would like to leave our readers with at the end here of your study? We've been talking with Samantha Stevenson, the Bellbind Letters, the Inside the Devil's Plan for Your Motherhood from our Sunday visitor.
I think I went back and there were a couple of questions, so maybe I can just quickly answer the questions.
I did not see any questions. The other person disappeared. I asked for
This was
clarification
from
on the.
not
Oh,
today.
oh, oh, okay, good, good. Sorry,
Yeah,
Samantha. Go ahead.
that's okay. It just said one of them was, "What do you hope readers come away with after delving into this book?" And the other is, "Would you consider adding your own twist to any other C.S. Lewis works?" And I'll answer that one first. I don't have any plans to at this point, but if people wanted to dive more into their C.S. Lewis works, I would really suggest Letters to Malcolm, chiefly on prayer, which is sort of the opposite side. It's not written from an angel's perspective because Lewis said he could never imitate the angelic quality. He's like, I could imitate the demonic quality of speech, but not the angelic quality. So it's just from one friend to another. But there's a lot of really
Wow.
interesting insights on prayer that I haven't read other places. I really like reading books on prayer. I've read a lot of them, and that has a lot of unique insights. So, Letters to Malcolm, chiefly on prayer. It's not one you hear that much about.
Yeah, I've never heard of it ever.
So that's kind of the companion to Screwtape Letters. Um, Kind of a shame that the letter on the demonic or the book on the demonic gets more attention, but I guess that makes sense given who we are. And also the Great Divorce, I think that one's really really short, super worth your time in terms of imagery. So that was my own interpretation of that question. So no plans to imitate those. And then his space trilogy also is really great. The last one in the middle one, Paralandra, is my favorite. You don't have to read. They can be read in order, but they don't have to be. The last one, That Hideous Strength, is his dystopian. So if you like dystopian stuff, that one's really good. There's a lot that's very on point with what's going on in our world today. What do you hope readers come away with? I hope that readers are invited into deeper relationship with Jesus. I hope that they are, if they recognize something they didn't see before, they have an insight and they have a way to think about growing in the spiritual life in some way that's personal to them, that helps them to on their journey of holiness.
Well, it certainly helped me, and I know I've heard from others that it's also helped them as well. So we thank you again so much, Samantha, for making
Thank
time
you.
these 5 nights to talk with us about the Bellbind Letters, the Catholic Mom Lenten Book Club. We thank all of you for listening and for just spending time with us. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to continue to list them here or go visit us at CatholicMom.com. We'll be announcing our summer Zoom book club, which will be a fiction book, in the next couple of weeks. God bless, and thank you again, Samantha.
Thank you so much.
We did it.
And I
Woohoo!
hope you have safe travels.